We just read Master Chung's teaching. The question, how does the ignorance arise in our original nature? This is a big question. Ignorance, in Sanskrit called avidya, ignorance. Last Sunday I touched on the 12-fold dependent origination. Human life in the past life, this life, and the next life is explained in terms of 12-fold dependent origination. And the first one is ignorance. In the past life, because of ignorance, all kinds of karma are forming actions. Karma forming actions are done in our previous lives. And as a result, we come to this world. Okay? And if the ignorance continues in our mind, then we cannot but create unwholesome karma again. And then in our next life, we will have to pay for that. And that is the fundamental teaching of the Buddha. Ignorance is like a cloud. We just saw a cloud. Sometimes clouds stay in the sky for many days, and sometimes one morning, now ignorance is just like that. Like a darkness of the cloud in the sky. Sometimes we have this dark clouds of ignorance in our mind, in the sky of our mind, and it stays there. Not only ignorance, but also like a certain unhappy feelings, or sometimes resentment, sometimes complaints, sometimes even ill will. They stay in our mind like a clouds in the sky. Sometimes it lasts quite a long time. In the family life too, sometimes between husband and wife, certain unpleasant feeling or some kind of a complaint stays in the sky. Sometimes quite a long time, And many people don't have the power to disperse the clouds. And those enlightened ones have the power to disperse the clouds as soon as they arise and change it to rain and gives the source of life to all the living beings on the earth. Make sense? Those enlightened Buddhas have the power not only to remove the clouds of their own mind, but also Buddhas have the power to change the clouds of like resentment, the anger, especially ignorance, into wisdom and compassion and love, like that. That is the great power of the Buddha. And we are here to learn how that can be done. And we also read that if you can keep your mind as empty as the empty sky all the time, you will have the control of the fate of your life, not only in this life, but also next life. Because if you can keep your mind as empty of prejudice, empty of anger, grudge, and empty of ignorance especially, then your mind is none other than the Buddha's mind, and you can create only good karma. And if you are a bodhisattva, the bodhisattva is the ideal image of man in Mahayana Buddhism, while the ideal image of man I'm not using the man sexist way, okay? Because in Hinayana Buddhism, the ideal image of man or person is Arahat. Arahat is the one who destroyed all the passions in their mind, and they can enter nirvana, meaning they never come back again to this troubled world. You know, at the time of the Buddha, especially in India, life must have been very difficult and bad. So being born in the world is a curse in a sense. But then the Buddha said, well, nobody gives you birth to yourself. It's only you who create your next life. And what kind of life you are going to create, it all depends on your mind. On your mind. So the ideal image of a person in Hinayana Buddhism was simply don't come back to the world. If your karma is very bad, and you can be born where there are lots of earthquakes, lots of tsunamis, lots of volcanoes, you know what I mean? And lots of flood and lots of tornadoes too. I'm sorry to say this, but implication of the Buddhist teaching is just that. So the Hinayana Buddhism thought, just don't come back. However, you don't have the power not to come back, because by the law of nature, law of the course of what is called the law of karmic retribution, it is like you commit a crime and you end up in jail, for instance. You know? So the best way is not to commit crimes, and the best way not to suffer is just to don't come back to the world. The question is, have you attained the power not to come back to the world again? You know, in Buddhism, not only in Buddhism but also in Hinduism, they talk about the six worlds, you know. We talk about that all the time. The highest one is the Deva world, like angels' world. And that is simply the world of bliss all the time. However, if your accumulation of good karma is all worn out and you come down to the human world. Second best is the human world, still. Why? Of course, in WonBuddhism, human world is better than angel world, Deva world. Why? Angels cannot get out of the cycle of birth and death. They have to come back to the human world where they learn the teaching of the Buddha and then brighten their own mind, and with the wisdom they reach nirvana, true nirvana. In Mahayana Buddhism, you know, the nirvana doesn't have to be like a realm of total extinction. Depending on the state of your mind, you can enjoy nirvana in this very world. How? Suppose somebody makes you angry, but if you don't surrender to those conditions, you are enjoying nirvana right there. Because nirvana means absence of pain. You know? Nirvana means like putting the wet blanket over the fire, it extinguishes, you know, like that. That's nirvana.